Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar, Stayntouch Product Enhancements, versions 5.83 and 5.84, Manager Daily Report, Improvements to the Toast Integration, and more, presented by Stayntouch Implementation Consultant, Victor Zoll. I'm your host, Erin Fisher, the content writer here at Stayntouch. Today's presentation will cover how you can get the most out of the Stayntouch PMS versions 5.83 and 5.84 product releases. In this webinar, we will cover the introduction of the Manager Daily Report and how to schedule it, enhancements to the breakfast list report, custom exports, including the date range selection added for all duration filters, the room status filter for in-progress rooms, how to restrict check-in payment method, some new multi-property and template enhancements, including the new option to copy rates and then create a template from that. Another multi-property dashboard enhancement is you can now assign the view dashboard to any user role. And then we have some enhancements to Toast POS, which are improved quantified postings. With rate strategy, you can now apply restrictions to based on rates. We also now support add-ons with date range. We now support day of the week selection for add-ons with date range. We've added new note, file, and action buttons to the Stay card. You can now set up cash payment limit. And then for tax by rate amount, we allow the calculation of culture and tourism tax or bed tax. The ability to search by AR account number from the billing information window. Bill details will now expand by default. And then finally, some Connect API enhancements. We'll have a short Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Feel free to submit questions throughout the presentation and we'll answer them in the order they're received at the end. And that's all I have right now. Victor, I'm going to switch it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Erin.
Okay.
Let me know if you're able to see my screen, Erin.
Yep, I can see the dashboard.
Awesome. All right. Hi, everyone. As Erin mentioned, we have plenty of topics to cover today with the new enhancements. We will cover version 5.83 first, and then we'll move over to 5.84. The first thing I want to talk about or introduce to you all is a new report called the Manage Daily Report. So navigating to our report section here, going into the menu, reports, new report. Again, this is all in alphabetical order, or you can obviously search for it at the very top. It's called the Manage Daily Report here. The Manage Daily Report, similar to the comparison report, but on just a one-day basis here. The Manager Daily Report will show the previous day's room revenue, total revenue, rooms occupancy, ADR, RevPAR, total comps, out of order, out of inventory, out of service, total groups rooms, occupancy percentage, same day reservations, day use rooms, and day use revenue, as well as last year, month to date, last year, month to date, year to date, and last year to date figures as well here. Please note, same day reservations are the reservations that were created for the previous day and made or arriving for that previous day as well. And then there were nightly reservations that were not canceled or no-shows as well here. So I'm going to go ahead and select it here. By default, again, there won't be any parameters because it's going to be the previous day. I'll go ahead and run the report here. I'll go to my inbox here. I'll have the option to either download or print it once then progress is done here. So again, I can click on the little refresh button here till I see that download option here to export it in a CSV file or print it. And then, or I can obviously click directly into this Manager Daily Report here. As I mentioned, the Manager Daily Report will also display occupancy percentage, arrivals, departures, out of order, out of inventory, and out of service for today, as you can see in this section right here, tomorrow, 2 days out, and then 3 days out as well here. In addition, the report will also display total revenue, ADR, rooms occupancy, occupancy percentage for the current month, past and future, on the books for the next 2 months as well here. Lastly, the report will also show any in-house groups here that start and end dates, including any shoulder dates, the number of rooms departing, stay over, and arriving for that group here. So that section would be at the very bottom here that you could see group information as well here. And then the report also showcases any events. So again, if you want to have any events set up directly within Stayntouch here, which is found under the revenue management category and events, they will also show up here. So as you can see, there's a today's events for the Amazon company meeting displayed here. Just to give you a preview of what that looks like, if you were to print this out, this is what it would look like if you were to print it out. So it's kind of a one-pager, again, just giving you relevant data and figures from the previous day if that is something you are looking for here. Again, that is the manager daily report here. Jumping over to another similar to reports in our exports here is regarding the breakfast report here. So maneuvering over back to my reports in the new report section here. We have now added an enhancement feature to the breakfast list report. So if you're a property that uses the breakfast list report here, the filter option has been changed to reservations with breakfast. When the breakfast list report is ran with all reservations selected from the display field, two totals are shown now, included with the number, which is the number of guests that have breakfast included on the reservations, and then not included, which is going to be the number of guests that do not have breakfast included in the reservations. So again, I'm going to search for the breakfast list report here. Go ahead and select all reservations here and go ahead and run the report here. Go to my inbox as well again here. And I have the option to download it or print it here. I'm going to click directly into it here. And as you can see here, I do have these new fields here at the very top here that says breakfast included, and I have 0 guests currently that don't have breakfast. And then I have 11 guests here that breakfast is not included here. Again, the report is ran for just reservations with breakfast, and then only included totals will be in the top here. So if you do decide to run it with the only ones with breakfast, then obviously it will only show the ones that have breakfast included here. And in this case scenario, it would be 0 here. All right. Adding on to the reports exports enhancements here, another enhancement to our exports here is that we've added in a new field under the duration category here. So if I maneuver over again, I went to the menu, reports, schedule a report / export here, and I'm going to select custom exports here. I already have 2 custom exports selected here, but I now have the option to select a date range when I select the duration here. So again, I already have this already pre-populated or configured already, but under the field name here, under the date, I selected that. And then the current month, I have this new option called date range. With the date range, again, I'm able to select a particular date range and then have that ran with that particular date range that I do select for this export here. And again, the output will only filter to whatever this date range is that I select here if I do select that option here. All right, jumping over to room status filter to show in progress rooms here. So with our release a couple of months ago with version 5.82, we enhanced the feature of including in progress as an indicator when you are cleaning rooms into the housekeeping module here. Now under the housekeeping section here, under housekeeping and room status here, you now have the option to filter to show those in progress rooms to either show them or exclude them. So again, I'm under my housekeeping and room status here, I'm going to select the filter option here. And now under the housekeeping status, I'll have the opportunity to select either, scrolling down a little more here, to exclude in progress rooms, or I have the option to show in progress rooms here. Again, the in progress rooms would be if a housekeeping is cleaning a room, they obviously, using a mobile device, mark the room as starting to clean it, it would be marked as in progress. And then again, if you ran this filter option here, it would show those rooms that are currently being worked on, and it will show the in progress section here. And again, if you want to exclude it, you would just go ahead and select this option here and then hit the apply green button at the top right corner here. So that is an enhancement to the room status housekeeping module there. I'm going to jump over to another topic, and this is relating to reservations here. We did enhance the check-in payment methods to restrict it, that you're able to restrict certain payment methods from being able to go through with the whole check-in process here. So now you can restrict payment methods when a reservation does not have a valid credit card with the full authorization approved. You can enable this functionality by going into settings here, settings again, or sorry, menu, settings, and then settings again. And then we're going to go to the reservations category here, and then we're going to go to reservation settings here. Now at the very bottom, you'll have an opportunity here to toggle on here. the restrict payment types here. So once toggled on here, you'll be able to select which payment types you are restricting from the check-in process here. So again, by default, all of these would be moved over, would be shown here on the left column here, and then you would move over anything over to the right column here, and or I'm sorry, vice versa. You would have all of them listed here as non-restricted, and then you would move over whichever payment methods you don't want, or you do want to restrict payment types. So again, typically that would be maybe something like check, cash payment here. And then again, if you're going through the check-in process, it would restrict you from checking them in unless you do have the permission to check them in. And I'll talk about that in a second here. So I went ahead and restricted payment times for check payment and cash payment. Just make sure you hit save changes at the very bottom. And again, if you go back into it, you will see that toggled on with those payment types now restricted here. In addition, if we navigate to the financial section here and we go to billing groups, and I'm going to select one billing group here that I have selected here, you'll see a new option here to override check-in restriction here. Basically, what this means is that if you do select it, you will still be able to proceed with the check-in process if you do have one of those restricted payment types selected here. So again, this will all be, obviously, if you're overriding the transaction or the check-in process with the restriction of payments, it will all be documented in the activity log here. When my restrict payment types is toggled on, the following rules will be applied here. For non-credit card payment methods, when the payment method is restricted, regardless of the deposits paid, it will still restrict the check-in. The override payment check-in restriction permission is required here. So again, the permissions that are now under the permission section here are going to be, again, I'm going to go to hotel and staff here under permissions here. The permission that will allow you to override it is going to be called override payment check-in restriction. So again, by default, or if you do have cash payment or check payment as a default payment method and you don't have this permission here, you won't be able to complete the check-in process here. Now, with credit card payment methods, when the credit card payment type is restricted, the following validations must be applied. When the authorization rule is set to no authorization at check-in, then the reservation will not be eligible for check-in unless you have, again, this override payment check-in restriction as granted as a permission for your user role here. When the authorization rule is set to the entire stay at check-in and the authorization was unsuccessful, then the reservation will not be eligible for check-in. Again, you will be able to override that just as long as you have this permission here. When the authorization rule is set for the entire stay at check-in and the authorization was successful for the authorization amount or more, then the reservation can be checked in without the override permission here. If the authorization amount is less but successful, then the reservation will not be allowed to be checked in without the override permission here. So again, the key here is going to be this override permission here as a new permission for the user role. If you do have the permission, you will be able to override if you do have any of those restricted payment types for that reservation that you are trying to check in there. Last thing I want to mention is regarding direct bill payment methods. During the direct bill check-in, if the routing instruction, again, that was related to the financial section here with this option of overriding check-in restriction here. So if the routing instruction is set up as using a billing group and that is set to override check-in restriction, which is right here, and has a valid AR account and is set to allow for the direct bill settlement, then the reservation will be checked in here. The next validation will be to check if the reservation has a valid credit card with a successful authorization and will restrict or allow based on the credit card payment method conditions. If none of the conditions are met, then again, the permission of the override payment check-in restrictions is required in order to complete the check-in process there. Again, this is all documented in the release notes. I know that's a lot of information, but again, this is allowing restricted payment times so again, I'm just going to show you an example here. If I have a reservation here and I do have as a default payment method is cash payment or check payment, it will not allow me to go through with the check-in process unless I do have that permission to override the payment check-in restrictions during that check-in process here. All right, jumping over, if you are a property, and this is relating to multi-property configuration, if you are a property that utilizes multi-property configuration here, we have now enhanced this feature that hotels now can use a template configuration to copy rates from one hotel to another within their chain here to create the templates from those existing rates. So again, I don't have an example here, but this is all documented on the release notes here that you are able to copy rates from one property to another if you are a multi-property configuration. And again, this is the notes that are available that you can review as well here in order to fulfill that, in order to copy rates from one property to another under the multi-property configuration. All right, those are the release notes from 5.83. I'm going to jump over to 5.84, which also included another enhancement to our multi-property configuration here. And this is related to the multi-property dashboard here, that you do have the capabilities now to view that. So I have another from our release notes as well here. This is basically what will happen with the multi-property dashboard here, that you are able to, just as long as you're assigned a user role and include the checkbox of multi-property dashboard, you'll be able to view your different properties assigned to you on the dashboard itself here. So again, these are on the release notes as well that better describe the multi-property dashboard that can now be assigned to any user role here. In addition to the multi-property dashboard, another enhancement from version 5.84 is related to the Toast integration with our Toast improvements here, which is a point of sale system that we do integrate with. Basically, anyone that is using the Toast POS system integrated with Stayntouch, we have optimized the way that Stayntouch posts checks with large quantities. This enhancement is in the back end, so only users, so it doesn't affect any front end users that are using the system. The purpose of this enhancement was to support posting checks with large quantities and to avoid any timeout issues, specifically for properties that do have network connection issues, or properties that handle a lot of large banquets, weddings, and whatnot. Before it used to time out, or it may have created separate checks. This will hopefully alleviate that issue there, that it will now be able to handle larger checks when posting into Stayntouch here from Toast POS integration here. All right, I'm going to jump over to talking about, I mentioned earlier about the daily manager report. With the 5.84 release as well here, now you're able to schedule that report as well here. So if I go into the report section here, schedule report / export here, sorry, and then schedule reports here. If I click on the new report schedule here, and again, I could search for that manager daily report here, and then I could schedule it. Default will always be today, because again, that would be that current date. And then again, I do have the option to select that, and then I could go ahead and schedule details here when I do want to receive that manager daily report here. All right, I'm going to jump over to another topic in regards to rates and add-ons here. This is in regards to the rate strategy module within Stayntouch here. So within the rate strategy module here, if I go over to the menu, go into revenue management, and I go into rate strategy here. This is in regards to applying restrictions to based on rates as well here. So when the rate strategy functionality is enabled for the property, again, this is under revenue management and rate strategy here, you will see an and include based on the rates when selecting rates. When this option is selected and saved, it will just be displayed on the rate strategy screens here. So I'm going to select the apply option here, select one of my rate strategies that I have created here, and go ahead and select change rates here. As you can see now, I do have an option to select and include based on rates, so I can go ahead and select that. And again, making sure I save changes here. And now I'll have a little notification here that it was also included based on rates included in this section here. Items to note with the based on rates included here, when the and include based on rates option is selected here, when the determined threshold is met, the based on rates will be closed as well here. So again, it will follow the parent rate. If it is closed, obviously it will close out any based on rates here as well here. Again, when determined the threshold is no longer met, the based on rates will be open. So again, it will follow whatever the parent. So again, if the parent rate is open, it will also open up the based on rates here as well here, since it is attached to the rate strategy here. And the last option, or the last item to note here, is that when it is deselected, the based on rates will no longer update. So again, if I go back in here and now I change the rates and I deselect it, obviously any rate strategies that are applied to the parent rate here will no longer apply to those based on rates, because I do not have that selected here anymore. Jumping over to add-ons here. So I'm going to go into the back end of the system here, going into settings here, and go to my rates here, and then add-ons here. I'm going to select one of these add-ons here. Now, this enhancement here is regards to the date range here and the days of the week here. So basically when a user selects an add-on with a date range here, the day of the week selection will not be visible. So again, if there's a date range here, this option will not be visible. However, when a user selects an add-on without a date range, so if this is open-ended here, the option for the day of the week will be visible here, which will be this section below here. The user can also remove the date range sets from the stay card if necessary. These actions can be taken from the stay card, during the reservation creation, on the group allotment summary tab, and then on the stay card, and then lastly on the add-on screen as well here. So again, this is a new enhancement related to the add-on section within Stayntouch here. All right, going to jump to another topic related to reservations here. This is an enhancement to the add notes and actions buttons within Stayntouch. Most of you, or all of you actually, should have already noticed the difference in the new notes and action section here. Before, what you had to do is actually click on the manage button and add the note here with the new note. We have now released a feature that you can simply click on this gray box here that says the plus note or the plus action item here to easily add a note here. Again, you can make it as an alert if you wanted to. And then same thing with posting an action. All you simply need to do is click on the action button, gray box there, and then add whatever action you are wishing to do there. Again, this is an enhancement because again, before this release here, you got to click on the manage and then add the new note here. And now you can simply just click on the new note or new action item listed here. All right, going to jump over and talk about financials now. So I'm going to actually jump over to my settings here and go back into my financial settings here. With the financials, this is related to a cash payment limit here that you are able to set. You can now set a cash payment limit within Stayntouch. This will allow you to track the total amount of cash applied to a reservation and restrict the ability to add additional cash payments to the reservation. Please note that this cash payment limit must be set up by Stayntouch admin. So if this is something you want to enable for your property, please reach out to customer support here. And basically what that looks like here is this section here that under S&T admin, we will be able to enable this for your property. And then again, you could set a cash payment limit here. And again, for an example here, we have it listed at 5,000 here. Basically what this means again is when a cash payment limit is set for your property, when you post a cash payment to a reservation that is higher than that limit set, regardless of the date is posted to the reservation, the user will get an error message. So again, if they've reached that cash limit there, they will get an error message that they won't be able to post in regards to cash payments there. Now there is a permission that you are able to override this as well here. So this new permission that we've created here is called override cash payment limit here. And again, with this payment or with this permission here, you will be able to write and post cash payments, even though you are over the threshold that you have set up here under S&T admin here as well here. And then a glimpse of what that will look like as a user if you do have the permission or you don't have the permission here. If you do have the permission, you will see this here, that you'll get a warning when you try to post the cash payment that the cash payment limit is reached here, and then you will be able to proceed with it. Now, if you don't have the permission, you will actually see this box appear that the cash limit is reached, and then you won't have the option to proceed. You would just simply have to close the window, and it won't allow you to override that permission to proceed and post that payment option here. So again, those are the difference if you do have the permission versus if you don't have the permission, and what the error you will receive if you do reach that cash payment limit there. Please note with the payment movement from, if you do post a cash payment movement from one reservation, you move it to a different bill here or in routing, this won't be payment movement from other reservations or bills due to routing or transfers won't be prevented based on the cash payment limits. The restriction only applies to the payment being directly applied to that particular reservation here. So just a thing to note in regards to that. Adding on to financials as a topic here, we also included a new tax by rate amount here. This calculation is for culture and tourism tax or bed tax here. We've added a new tax rule in which tax calculation is based on the rate amount of the reservation, and you can enable this tax by rate amount from the settings, financial settings, and then tax rules here. So again, if I maneuver over to my financials here, and I go to my financial settings here, I'll see this option for tax by rates amount here that I can toggle on. And again, making sure you save those changes once you do toggle that on. The one thing that needs to be enabled here is also the tax rules here. So you want to make sure you enable the tax rules here, and then you will be able to utilize the tax by rate amount here. And then go ahead and save changes here. The tax by rate amount will be calculated based on the rate revenue. Moreover, based on the revenue, tax by rate amount will use the rate thresholds and rules to calculate the tax that will be added to the reservation. With this option to add the tax amount to the rate or show as a separate line item on the guest bill here. So when I am creating a new tax here, now that I enable that feature here, if I go to my charge codes here, I'll go and search for tax here. So let's go and select this tourist tax here. And then again, I would go ahead and select here person per night here, and I'll have this option to enable tax by rate here. So once I select that, I'll have the option to configure the new tax rule amounts that I'll be calculating here. So again, the tax by rate amount charge code can be set up and calculate per person, adult or child for the post type, and then per night only is the only option for the post type here. The tax rate amount must be configured with the required rate thresholds and the tax that will be applied if the rate falls within that threshold. This should also include an option to set an incremental rate value for taxes to be calculated where the rate amount exceeds that last threshold here. Additional calculation rules can be configured to calculate the tax based on the gross or net amount of the rate. So that would be this section right here. You can also configure rules to calculate the tax on the total rate amount or the total rate amount divided by the number of people in the room, depending on what your tax rules are for your particular property here. You can choose to set up a rule to only calculate this for stays less than a specified nights here. If the tax rate amount is linked to a tax exempt group and that is linked to a reservation, the reservation will not post that tax linked to that rate. The reservation will be exempt from that tax that you create here. Again, that is if you have a tax exempt reservation here. Once the tax by rate amount tax charge code is linked to accommodation charge code, it can be set to either show tax calculated as a separate line item or on the guest bill here. The tax amount calculated to the rate amount. Please note, tax by rate amount will always be calculated as an exclusive tax, and linking the tax by rate amount will link to the new section of the parent charge code. The section will only be displayed if the tax by rate amount setting is enabled here. So again, if I do have my charge code here, and for example, my room charge here, I have this option to add to rate amount here. And again, that's because I enable the tax by rate amount setup here. In regards to group reservations, the tax by rate amount will be calculated for group reservations linked to a group rate code. When the tax by rate amount charge code is linked to the group, please note the following: rooms blocked, not picked up. Tax by rate amount will be calculated by per person or adult specified on the room block. Rooms picked up, the tax rate amount will be calculated based on the occupancy allocation for that particular reservation here. To deactivate the tax by rate amount here, when there are any financial transactions created using the tax by rate amount charge codes, a Stayntouch PMS will not allow the tax by rate amount toggle to be disabled. The same rule will apply if any financial transactions were created using the tax charge code using the tax rule. When the tax rules are deactivated, to toggle for tax by rate amount will not be available. All right. Next topic here, and the next enhancement that we released here is in regards to being able to search by AR account number from the billing information window. So when you do have a reservation here and you're adding billing information here, you can simply click on the reservation here. I'm going to select billing charges here. And then once I select the bill routing here and add routes, I can go ahead and typically I would type in the company, the AR account name here, and switch this over to account parts. You are now able to search by the number, the AR number, or the account number affiliated with that particular account. So instead, I could have typed in 73778 here, and then it would pull up that particular company account that has that AR account attached to it as well here. In addition to this, while we're on the reservation screen here, Stayntouch now released a feature when accessing the different bills on a reservation. All the bills will by default be expanded, no matter which bill you're on. The users will no longer have to expand the bills to see the transaction details. So again, prior to this release here, if you did have multiple bills here, and I'm just going to go ahead and post a charge on bill number 2 here. Before, by default, bill number 1 would only be expanded, but now if you maneuver over, and again, doesn't matter how many bills you have, by default, it will be expanded. Again, prior to this, this was always collapsed here, and you always had to click on the orange chevron arrow here to expand it, but now by default, this will all be expanded. Again, it doesn't matter how many bills you have, it will always be expanded for every bill that you do create here that has charges posted against that particular bill here. All right, the last feature enhancement with the release of version 5.84 here is related to API enhancements. I'm not going to go too much into detail with this. Again, these are on the release notes here, but I just wanted to showcase this. It's at the very end related to our integrations that we just enhanced some of the features with the Connect APIs here. Some of those features now are the add-on flag for customer groups included, the changes made to the PMS via the post API display here, changes made to the PMS via the put and delete API display here, and then new endpoints to the post reservations section here. Again, this is in relation, oops, one more here, connect APIs to channel manager here. Again, this is all related to API integrations, just new features that they are able to obtain within the Stayntouch if you do have any integrations that do have API integrations here. And again, these are all on the release notes as well here. Those are all the enhancements that we wanted to highlight in regards to the version 5.83 and 5.84 here. Erin, I'll hand it back to you for any Q&A sessions.
All right, thank you so much, Victor. I'd now like to turn the floor over for questions. Remember, you can submit questions through the question box in the middle of the control panel. So I'll give everyone a few seconds to enter any questions. Right now, I see that Muhammad has a question. Can we get a housekeeping discrepancy report, and can we run the report related with user rights? So for that, you would need to create a feature request on our support portal. So if you go ahead and do that, you can make a request for that. And I don't see any other questions, but I'll give everyone a few more minutes for those. All right, since I'm not seeing any other questions come through, I'll switch back to my screen. All right, so in this webinar, we reviewed the following enhancements: the introduction of the manager daily report and scheduling, enhancements to the breakfast list report, custom exports, and the option to define date for date range selection added for all duration filters, the room status filter for in-progress rooms, restrict check-in payment methods, multi-property template configuration, the option to copy rates and create templates, the option to assign dashboard view for multi-property hotels to any user role, and improve quantified postings for Toast POS, the option to apply restrictions to based on rates for hotels using rate strategy, add-ons with date range, day of the week selection, the add note file and action buttons, the option to set a cash payment limit, tax by rate amount, and the calculation of culture and tourism tax, the option to search by AR account number from the billing information window, bill details expanded by default, and then lastly, the Connect API enhancements. Back page. So thank you all for joining, and if you have any additional questions, feel free to email me at erin.fisher@stayntouch.com. Thanks again.